Hello and welcome to SportsNetUSA.net. We are live from Cypress College, where it is the site of the CCCAA Super Regional between the Cypress College Chargers and the Bakersfield Renegades. My name is Ryan Osborn, joined alongside by Mark Pavlovich and Ed Ford. And Mark, two of the top teams in Southern California go head-to-head for a chance to go to the Final Eight.
Yeah, and really when you look about it, it usually comes down to pitching. I think on the Bakersfield side, it comes down to pitching. The Cypress side, it comes down to defense. We saw him play against El Camino. Shoddy defense. Brad Pickler even said, hey, we've got to play better defense. I saw Bakersfield play against Fullerton. Their pitcher in the circle is the real deal. This team can hit, and I'm going to say this series gets won because of the coaches. Yeah, I know it's all laid on the players' feet, but Ryan Osborn, I think the coaches determine the outcome of this game.
So we get set for the first batter of the game, Ashley Hernandez, and she'll be followed by Jordan Jimenez and then Erica Chavez. Alexis Solis, then McKenna Valencia, and Kylie Fahey. First pitch from Hope Davalos goes low, just below the kneecaps, and it's 1 ball and no strikes. After Fahey in the lineup, the 7th hitter is Sadie Banuelos, followed by Yesenia Zaldana, and then Monica Alvarez. Next pitch from Davalos also goes outside, so it's 2 balls and no strikes. Top of the first inning between Bakersfield and Cypress.
You look at Ashley Hernandez batting .319 this year as a leadoff hitter.
She takes that one right down the middle for strike 1. 2 balls and 1 strike.
My favorite category, though, is that on-base percentage, Ryan, .440 for a leadoff hitter.
Next up to Hernandez, and she floats this one foul down the left-hand side. And it will even the count at 2 balls and 2 strikes. Just underway from Cypress. Windy, gloomy day here in Orange County. Wind going from center field right to home plate. Davalos pitches with the wind behind her back and makes it 3 balls and 2 strikes. A full count to the first batter of the game, Ashley Hernandez. Jimenez and Chavez down over towards the left-hand side, awaiting their turn as Hernandez back in the box, takes a look at the next one and offers at it, and sends it foul back to the screen, and it stays at 3 balls and 2 strikes.
And when you set that Cypress defense, Ryan, you're going to look at that Cypress defense is going to try and choke everybody off by coming in at the corners.
Hope Davalos in the circle and Kelly Ross behind home plate. Gabby Munoz over at first. Next delivery, inside out swing, just gets a piece for Ashley Hernandez, and it goes foul. To finish off the defense for Cypress, it is Jessie Gomez over at second, with Destiny Lucero down at third and Sydney McCullum at short. That rounds out the infield as Hope Davalos finds the sign and goes to the plate. Strike 3 call as Ashley Hernandez is rung up for out number 1.
That high strike zone, if that's given today, it should be a real interesting game with both these ladies in the circle.
Now Jordan Jimenez up next. Vanessa Ayala, Tiana Harris, and Kiani Puailoa. Left to right in the outfield for Cypress. This one is cork swung over towards right field. And Puailoa is able to get there, and she watches as a single lands in front of her in right field. First runner of the day for Bakersfield, and their first hit as well. And up next comes Erica Chavez.
You look at Chavez on this team, 32 RBIs so far this season.
Chavez very straight up stance as she takes the first pitch right at the knees, outside corner for Davalos. No balls and 1 strike with 1 out. Top 1. And Bakersfield at the plate. Cypress hosting this super regional by way of them being the higher seed. Chavez takes outside. 1 ball, 1 strike, 1 out.
You look at Chavez, who's got 7 home runs, and Ryan, look at the outfield for Cypress. I mean, they're in so shallow.
Down at third, Destiny Lucero even with the bag. Next delivery, and that gets fouled off the leg of Chavez, so she'll stay at the plate, and Jimenez will have to retreat over to first. Cypress College in their home white uniforms with pinstripes. Cypress script across the chest in navy blue. There's a spinner that goes too low and bounces home. And Chavez stays away from it. Even count at 2 balls and 2 strikes with 1 out.
Chavez, somebody who's only struck out 8 times this season. So somebody who's got a great batting average, on base percentage of .443, usually is going to put the bat on the ball.
Sees the next pitch and does exactly that, but sends it foul and into the bullpen, right field side. Stays at 2 balls and 2 strikes. Bakersfield in their road uniforms. White on front, contrasting gray on back.
Wait a minute.
The Bakersfield Renegades.
Same color as on their bus, right? That's what they had on their team bus when they came pulling into the parking lot.
2-2, 1 out. Davalos into the line, and she'll bring it home. It bounces in. Kelly Ross bluffs over to first, and it's an even count for the second time in 3 batters. 3-2, 1 gone. As Mark mentioned earlier, Vanessa Ayala, Tiana Harris, and Kiani Puailoa all shallow in the outfield. Next delivery, that's ball 4, and Chavez will go up to first. Down to second goes Jimenez, and Bakersfield putting something together here in the top half of the first inning against Cypress.
Where you look at that high strike zone that gets called, but then you go down a little low, and that strike zone's not getting called. As Solis batting .323 now is at the plate.
She'll take the first pitch, set up outside, 1 ball and no strikes, and that's the 3rd straight batter that Davalos has gone with that low outside corner to. This time doesn't get the benefit of the call. Next delivery, swung and popped up over towards very deep second, shallow right field. And Kiani Puailoa will make the call and the catch. That is out number 2 on the fly out to right field.
And it's good that Puailoa does come in, Ryan, because Jesse Gomez got twisted around like my back's twisted around into the wind, lost the ball out there. If Puailoa doesn't come in, that thing drops for a base hit.
Davalos, first pitch to McKenna Valencia. And that one stays low. 1 ball, no strikes, and 2 outs. Wind kind of swirling around different directions here at Cypress. We'll see if it ends up being a factor at all in this game or over the weekend. There's a strike right on the inside half, and Valencia takes all the way. 1 ball, 1 strike, and 2 outs. Defending state champions taking on the Bakersfield Renegades, who have championship aspirations. High chopped over to second. Nice pick up there by Jessie Gomez. And she'll soft toss it over to first. That will end the inning on the 4-3 ground out. No runs, 1 hit, no errors, and 2 runners left on base. We go to the bottom of the first inning. A 0 score between Cypress and Bakersfield. This is the 2018 CCCAA Super Regional on SportsNetUSA.net.
Well, Ryan, it's very interesting. We had the pleasure of walking the outfield and the infield here at Cypress. And home cooking, if you're a defensive player, I got to ask you, because you sort of walked out there and said, wow, look, there's a wave in the outfield. Do I want to play deep? So does Cypress not only have an advantage because they've won so many state championships, but do they have a home field advantage just from what you saw walking the field?
I think they do, because, I mean, you and I were talking about it before the game as we were walking the field, and you notice over on the right side of the infield, just as you pass where it sections off from dirt to grass, there's a dip. You start off at higher ground, you go into the outfield, it dips down, and then slowly grades back up as you go into the right field corner. So you have to play it differently if you're the Cypress Chargers. And one thing to notice is the fact that, hey, Bakersfield, they were just slightly late in getting here. They didn't have that chance to really see how this field plays. So I do think that it is a slight advantage that can go Cypress' way, especially when you know how exactly this infield will take hops, how it'll play, and where things are more likely to skid.
Well, let's see if those first 4 batters can do anything for Cypress.
Cypress Chargers will have Sydney McCullum, Infinity Laufau, and then Gabrielle Munoz, followed by Kiani Puailoa. That's the top 4 in the lineup for the Chargers. They'll be joined by Kelly Ross, Destiny Lucero, And Vanessa Ayala, final two in the batting order, Tiana Harris and Jessie Gomez. We'll set the Bakersfield lineup in just a little bit as Cindy McCullum comes up to the plate. Person who you, Corey, Ed, and I were talking about, OEC Player of the Year.
Yeah, and it'll be something tomorrow to see Corey Nealon sort of, because that was his pick early in the year as she hits .433 for this Cypress team.
She takes the first pitch well outside, and it goes all the way to the backstop. 1 ball and no strikes. Kylie Fahey in the circle, followed by Erica Chavez behind home plate, and McKenna Valencia over at first. Inside half, it goes for a strike, 1 ball and 1 strike.
Look at, oh, I'm sorry, Ryan. I was going to say, you look at Fahey in the circle, ERA of 1.23 so far this season.
And she'll wind and fire. McCullum offers at it, and it goes dribbling into left field, but foul. 1-2. Ashley Hernandez at second. Yesenia Saldana down at third with Jordan Jimenez at short. That rounds out the infield for the Bakersfield Renegades. Alexis Solis out in left, Monica Alvarez in center, and Marley Mendoza in right as Sydney McCullum goes down swinging. And Fahey has her first strikeout of the day. And Mark, you were talking about it earlier. If she's on her game, which she needs to be for Bakersfield today, she can be easily in double-digit strikeouts.
Well, you look at her 285 strikeouts this season, only 52 walks, a 5-to-1 ratio.
Infinity Laufo now at the plate, 1 ball and no strikes with 1 out as that one goes inside half. Cypress up for the first time today. Bottom 1 as this one is laced towards left, and reaching up to make the catch is Alexis Solis. That will make it out number 2. And Mark, you saw how that one tailed away towards the left field corner. Almost got her off guard, but she still makes the play.
Well, that was hit like a little 2-iron stinger coming off the tee, what you do, and then you roll your wrist so you get that slight little hook at the end. Fortunately, the pin was in the right placement on the green, and it's an out in left field.
Gabrielle Munoz takes that one well outside. 1-0 with 2 gone in the bottom of the first inning. Fahey rocks and delivers, and that stays out and away. 2 balls and no strikes with 2 gone. Infield slightly in, especially at the corners with Yesenia Saldana down at third. Couple steps in front, and McKenna Valencia over at first, 3 steps in from first. 3-0 with 2 outs to Munoz. She gets a sign from Coach Pickler down the third base line as Fahey brings the next one, a strike outside corner. And Fahey is in the count at 3-1.
And you watch Fahey, she works very fast for this Renegade team.
Next delivery, Munoz offers at it, can't find it. That makes it 2 strikes, so a 3-ball, 2-strike count with 2 gone. Next up from Fahey, the 3-2. Munoz just stays alive, gets a piece and sends it off to the left-hand side. It remains a full count. Outfield, slightly in center and left. That is Monica Alvarez and Alexis Solis. Next up from Fahey, tries to paint that outside corner and ends up not getting the call. So that is the first base runner for Cypress on a walk that is issued to Gabrielle Munoz. Up next is Kiani Puailoa. Puailoa set in there as the cleanup hitter in this lineup, and she has to duck away from this one as this goes high. 1-0 with 2 gone. Bottom 1, 0-0 game between Cypress and Bakersfield. 2018 CCCAA Super Regional. You're on SportsNetUSA.net. Winner of this series gets to move on to the Final 8 here in California. And Cypress is trying to get there for the 2nd straight year. Last year, they ended up going 48-0 and winning the state championship. 1 ball and no strikes. 2 gone. Munoz over at first. Puailoa at the plate. She shows bunt, brings it back, too high once more, 2-0.
And if you're Fahey, you've got a battery mate behind the plate whose fielding percentage is 1,000, Ryan. She is yet to make an error as a catcher.
Next up, Puailoa brings it back once more. Staying high in the zone is Fahey. 2 balls and 1 strike with 2 gone. And Mark, that's a strategy that a pitcher can use if you know that a batter's going to try and sacrifice, as Puailoa has this one go off the handle of the bat. 2 balls and 2 strikes with 2 gone. If you stay high in the zone, it's harder for a batter to be able to get around on that one and bunt it.
Well, especially if depending on their size also.
Puailoa swings and misses. And that will do it for the inning. 2 strikeouts for Fahey. She also gives up a base runner, but it ends up being no runs, no hits, no errors, and 1 runner left on base. We go to the top of the second, 0-0 between Bakersfield and Cypress. This is the 2018 CCCAA Super Regional on SportsNetUSA.net.
You know, we had the running joke, how many fingers does Brad Pickler have on his hand, right? Because you'd counted what, 12 championships?
12 straight OEC championships and 9 state championships.
Yeah, but they've got more than 12 OEC championships. That's just 12 straight
12.
OEC championships. And how many state championships you were saying?
9 state championships and overall OEC championships, 22 of the last 27.
So does that make him ambidextrous when it comes to rings? Wears them on both hands and his toes?
It's gone. If you're looking at OEC championships, it's beyond fingers and toes at this point.
I tell you, and really you look at the talent that he gets, but the talent's really been based on timely hitting and excellent pitching, which against his Bakersfield team, it's going to be very interesting. Unlike the other matchup we were talking about, El Camino against Santiago, which both you and I figured that could be a 5-4 game at the end of the day.
First up is Kylie Fahey. She'll be joined by Sadie Banuelos and then Yesenia Saldana. First up from Hope Davalos, and Fahey offers at the first pitch and sends it foul left-hand side, 0-1. Mark, you look at that Santiago El Camino series, it almost seems as if the winner of that series will be the one with fewer errors. As Fahey sends this one into center field, it's going to get all the way out to Tiana Harris, and that will be a single to start things off for the Bakersfield Renegades.
Now batting designated player number 3,
Sadie Banuelos up next.
Now, Banuelos is somebody batting only .216 so far this season. So this is where you would think maybe, Ryan, the traditional softball play, drop the bunt.
That goes down and low, 1-0. I mean, we saw it last weekend at the regional, in which Santiago Canyon, one of the ways that they manufactured runs was through that bunt sacrifice. That one is a strike. Right down the middle, 1-1.
Well, again, you look at this Cypress team that has always been noted on their defense when they play the game. And they bring everybody into the corner looking for that sacrifice.
Davalos winds and fires and spins this one inside half, 1-2.
And you look at McCullum playing deep in the hole at shortstop. If you lay down a bunt, you want to try and push one right by the pitcher out of the circle.
Davalos sees this one sent into left field. Playing very shallow is Vanessa Ayala. She'll bring it back into McCullum. But McCullum takes one step over to her left to try and cover just in case of a double play, and it goes right to normal shortstop depth into left field. So 2 straight singles for the Renegades, and now for the second straight inning. They have runners on first and second. Second hit of the second inning, 3 overall. Up next is Yesenia Saldana. She sends this one towards right field. Harris is underneath it. She will make the catch and keeps Fahey over at second. One pitch and a fly out into center is out number one, and Monica Alvarez up next.
Well, and I mean the thing that you look at too, Ryan, is when you look at this team and you look at this Bakersfield team, they've got a 321 batting average, a 396 on base percentage, and a 456 slugging percentage as a team.
Bunts this one foul for Monica Alvarez, 0-1. You talk about that, Mark. It's interesting to note with all these teams, especially in the last 16 that remain here in the California State playoffs, that goes outside, 1-1. You see the different styles that each team plays. One more offensive, like you see at Santiago Canyon, and you see El Camino as well. Then you see pitching depth, like you would have over at Ohlone, and then also Bakersfield as well. But they have the ability to go with both, as this was a bunted foul and into the crowd.
Yeah, and the thing that's interesting about all these teams that we've seen over the years, you've been around long enough, done enough softball with us, usually fundamentally sound teams. Surprising last week in the Santiago game, the amount of errors that we saw between Pasadena and Santiago Canyon. A little surprising.
Bound off to the right-hand side by Monica Alvarez, and she stays alive.
Few more errors by the Cypress team than you and I have seen the last 2 years in coming out here. Brad Pickler's teams usually plays a little more solid defense. The El Camino game, surprisingly, Cypress did not play well at all defensively.
One ball, 2 strikes, 1 out. Hope Davalos with runners on first and second. 0-0 score between Bakersfield and Cypress. This is over towards short. McCullum has to get to it. She'll side flip it over to third, and Destiny Lucero, covering the bag, is able to make the catch. So that goes down as a fielder's choice, and still runners on first and second. Cut down is Kylie Fahey. She'll go back to the dugout as out number 2. Back to the top of the lineup goes Bakersfield and Ashley Hernandez. Hernandez takes a called strike outside half. No balls, 1 strike, and 2 gone.
Struck out her first time up.
Davalos goes through the process of bringing the pitch home and blows it right by Ashley Hernandez for 0-2. No balls, 2 strikes, 2 outs. Bakersfield first and second. And Hernandez at the dish. Half swing. And they're going to say that she held up in time. 2 balls, 2 strikes, and 2 gone.
A little windy out right now, Ryan. Wind's blowing from right to left. Crossing wind.
Hernandez slaps this one right next to the pitcher's circle, and Munoz has to sky up there and make the catch after the toss from Hope Davalos.
Judy Garman, one of the best in community college softball coming out of the OEC.
And don't forget, when she won those 4 straight national championships with Golden West, this was a time right before the NCAA made softball an official sport. So Golden West would play teams like UCLA. They would play those big-time teams in Southern California and California overall.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times in the old days, that's what exactly happened with community colleges when they'd have to find competition.
Kennedy Laufo up next as she takes the first pitch for a strike. No balls and 1 strike with 1 out.
And of course, all of us here at sportsnetusa.net have been affiliated with the Judy Garman Classic.
Fahey brings strike 2, 0-2 with 1 away. 1 run on 3 hits and 1 error for Cypress. And for Bakersfield, it's no runs, 3 hits and 1 error. Fahey, this one gets sent over towards right field. It goes off the first base bag. Sydney McCullum comes around to score. Laufo over at second. That will be a double. An odd play here, Mark, but it goes off the first base bag and just stays away from both fielders.
Well, and here's the thing. It hits the bag. You're the first base person. What do? You lose the ball. It hits the bag, and then, Ryan, the next thing you're doing is looking to see if it kicks to right field. Because you don't know. It goes straight up. Your right fielder's playing deep, and it's really like a goalie looking for a puck coming off the post. When they hit, you don't know where the ball goes. And so now Cypress has hit 2 balls at an opportune time. And, of course, we were sort of saying, you know, this could be a pitching thing, but you look at Fahey, really not the best of luck in this inning. A fly ball that should have been an out. Outfielder misplays it, and then one of those things where if you just said, hey, let me place the ball anyplace, off the bag for a double. So far, hard luck pitching in the circle for Bakersfield.
And you look where all 3 extra base hits have landed for Cypress. You have one that ends up just kicking towards where we were talking about earlier in the day, just behind where that bottom slope is in right field. Then you have a very shallow double into left, and one that hits the bag over at first. So all 3 extra base hits haven't exactly traveled very far, but they've been in the right spot.
And give it to Brad Pickler, who's very daring as a third base coach. He sends his runners.
0-1, 1 out. Next up for Gabrielle Munoz, and she fouls it off left-hand side. 0-2.
I mean, Ryan, on that triple where he tries for the inside the park home run, I mean, he had a big grin on his face when he's waving his runner home. You knew Brad sort of thought this is going to be close at best.
0-2. Munoz sees that go well outside. Fahey tries to get her to chase, and she doesn't go after it. 1-2. But that's pretty much what you want to see from a third base coach, and in this case, the head coach, as it's now 2-2. It's early in the game. What do you have to lose if you end up sending your runner? You already put 1 across.
Well, and you've got to put pressure on the defense to make a play. I've often felt that's important in softball.
Next up, stays outside again. So 3 straight outside the strike zone, and for the second time in as many at-bats, Gabrielle Munoz has a 3-ball count, 3-2. Sends this one on a fly over towards the left-hand side and into foul ground.
I mean, if you're a better defensive team than I am an offensive team, good for you. But if I'm a good offensive team and you can't play defense, I'm going to make you lose the game.
Full count at 3-2. Next up for Munoz, and down the left-hand side, and once again foul. As it goes after the camera down the third base line.
Well, I just heard the sportsnetusa.net blimp go overhead. Ed Ford piloting that for us today.
Munoz from Fahey, and she continues to stay alive as she rockets this one down the dugout, third base line.
You know, Brad Pickler said, there's a camera guy down right here, right past the post, and if you can hit him.
3-2, 1 gone. Runner at second. Fahey to Munoz and down the left field line again. Goes foul.
You know, that's it. The blimp overhead, cameraman and thing, you know, everything's working for Cypress so far.
Lofo over at second. 3-2. Now to Munoz inside. It gets away from Chavez behind home plate. Lofo goes down to third, and a walk will be issued to Munoz. So after the intense battle between Fahey and Munoz, Munoz will end up winning it, and she is on base as Kiani Puailoa comes up next.
And again, Ryan, this is where you watch Brad Pickler at third base. The pitch is inside. Almost hits the batter, gets away from the catcher. What's Brad do? He doesn't have his runner stand there at second base. He has that runner break and go to third. And now,
Rebecca Espinoza will be running over at first now for Gabrielle Munoz.
yeah, and this is the thing again, too. With runners at the corner, it's going to be real interesting. Brad Pickler has been known to drop a bunt on this. So we'll see if Brad goes for that traditional dropping a bunt, and we'll see what happens.
Puailoa, left-handed batter, shows bunt initially and brings it back. So now you see everyone in the infield wheeling around. Down from third, Yesenia Saldana looks like she's going to be sticking more towards the third base bag. Jimenez over at short. They're going to let that pitch go up and out. Actually, looks like no pitch as time was called just beforehand. So back down to first goes Espinoza. 1 ball, no strikes, and 1 gone. Fahey to Puailoa, outside again. They toss down to second. It was a bluff toss, and Jimenez cuts it off. She'll toss it back to Fahey. A stolen base puts runners on second and third with 1 gone. So Espinoza comes in. She steals second base. 2 runners in scoring position. Puailoa shows bunt and brings it back on a pitch down and in, but in the strike zone, called for strike 1.
Puailoa hits .423 and on-base percentage of .486. She has only struck out 4 times, Ryan, this season.
2-2 with 1 out as she swings through that last pitch. 4 times in 42 games up to this point. Next up to Puailoa, there is strikeout number 5 as she gets called for it. Out number 2, and Kelly Ross up next.
Well, I can jinx anybody, can't I?
Ross, in her first time up, ended up reaching on an error into center field. And sends this on third base side. Brad Pickler has to get out of the way. No balls, 1 strike, 2 gone. We are in the bottom of the 3rd inning. Cypress at the plate. 2-0 lead over Bakersfield in game number 1 of this 2018 Super Regional. Here on SportsNetUSA.net, here's the 0-1. And Ross gets this one in on the hands, and she is able to fight it off towards the left-hand side.
Last year, Ross was a redshirt for Cypress College. She was a medical redshirt. She only appeared in 7 games last season, so it's a new name for a lot of the fans.
And again, down the third base side as she's just a little early on that one, 0-2.
From John F. Kennedy High School. Out of Huntington Beach. A NASCAR person out of Huntington Beach. Come on. What is that?
No balls and 2 strikes. Fahey to home, and Ross down to her head coach. Brad Pickler, third base side. That is 4 straight that Ross has sent that way, and it stays no balls and 2 strikes. Infield for Bakersfield. Fahey in the circle and Chavez behind home plate. Valencia over at first and Hernandez at second. Saldana down at third with Jimenez at short. Fahey back to home, and Ross pops this one up right-hand side. It's just going to carry on out of play. Valencia looked into the sky that is covered with clouds and just couldn't find it. No balls, 2 strikes, and 2 outs, but it still gets out of play before anyone could get there. Left to right, outfield, Alexis Solis, Monica Alvarez, and Marley Mendoza. Kelly Ross this time pops it up towards first, and Valencia will make the call and make the catch. That'll do it for the inning with 1 run, 2 hits, no errors, and 2 left on base. It ends up being a 2-0 score for Cypress over Bakersfield. This is Game 1 of the 2018 CCCAA Super Regional on SportsNetUSA.net.
Of course, a lot of these young ladies here on the community college level want to make it to the next level, be it D1, D2, or D3. And, of course, when you talk about D1, well, somebody that we've talked a lot about this year already, Ryan, has been Sydney Romero. You look at her, Sydney Romero over at Oklahoma, plays third base. In her first 2 years has nearly come to the plate 500 times so far. She's hit 22 home runs, and in 500 at-bats, she has struck out 13 times. That's it, only 13 times. Of course, she has more career home runs than she does strikeouts, the same as her older sister, Sierra Romero, who does the same thing. The only difference is she has 2 national championships. Her sister didn't. You need to look at her so far. Batting average coming into 2017, lifetime, .339 batting average, .559 slugging percentage, and an on-base percentage of .337. I tell you what, 13 times at 500 times at the plate is just amazing for anybody on any level in softball around the nation.
Well, I mean, you were talking about Puailoa, who up until today, up until that at-bat, she had only had 4 strikeouts in 42 games. Well, Sydney Romero was only averaging about 4 strikeouts per season. That included postseason play, in which 2 of those 3 seasons up to this point, she has come away with national titles as well. Sent the opposite way into right field. Puailoa to first, and not in time. Just beating it out in time is McKenna Valencia. So she is on to start off the top half of the 4th, and a single for Bakersfield brings Kylie Fahey up. Hope Davalos to Fahey, and Fahey sends it down towards the dugout, and everyone goes scurrying away. 0-1.
Batting .333 this season, .449 on-base percentage. A really good eye, too, as a hitter, Ryan, when you look at her, because she's got 19 walks and only 9 strikeouts so far as a hitter for the Renegades this season.
0-2, nobody out, and this one goes in the dirt. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Fahey looking to help out her own cause. At the plate, Valencia over at first. Fahey, left-handed hitter for the Bakersfield Renegades, sends this one down the line into left field, but Vanessa Ayala is able to get there in time and make the catch. 1 out. More of a liner to left field. And with 1 away, Sadie Banuelos is up next, the designated player, who is currently 1 for 1 with a single. Down the line, Destiny Lucero continues to creep in, about a third the way in. 1-0 as that one stays high. Bakersfield has had runners in scoring position twice in this game. Just haven't been able to drive them in yet. That goes just low. And Banuelos able to stay away from it, 2-0.
And again, you look, the strike zone's just a little lower, Ryan, than we're accustomed to, and a little higher than we're accustomed to.
pops straight up and behind home plate. 2 balls and 1 strike. As it goes into foul ground. Banuelos looking for the 2-1. And she'll offer at this one. It's right behind home once more and into the crowd, just missing a couple of fans.
You saw the SID for Cypress College show his cat-like reactions. Looked for a dark corner, went there and hid and didn't even try for the ball. I got a cat like that at home.
2 balls, 2 strikes. Next up, half swung right back to Davalos. Davalos to first. They try and go back to second. Not going to be in time as Valencia is in there sliding. Didn't look like Banuelos wanted to offer at that pitch, but instead gets the check swing, and she is tossed out 1-3.
Well, and Ryan, you almost looked like Davalos forgot that she had a runner on first base because she had an easy play at second. I'm not going to say she could have turned a double play, but she could have gotten the lead runner.
Davalos with the first pitch in the 4th inning to Yesenia Saldana. And Saldana sees 1 ball and no strikes. And that was the type of awareness that got Cypress into trouble in that game against El Camino. If that goes below the knee, 2-0.
Yeah, and you really see a pitcher that's trying to stay down low. They know that that Bakersfield team can turn on the high pitches, but if they're going up with a rise pitch, they're getting the call from this home plate umpire.
Davalos to home, and this time Saldana offers at it, but fouls it off. To the screen, 2 balls and 1 strike with 2 gone.
Go with a rise, go with an off speed.
Here's the 2-1 from Davalos. Flown towards shallow right, and instead making the catch at deep second will end up being Jesse Gomez. Pop up over to 4. That's 3 gone. We go to the bottom of the 4th inning. It ends up being a 2-0 lead for Cypress, the home squad, over Bakersfield. This is the 2018 CCCAA Super Regional on SportsNetUSA.net.
You know, some of the other people that came out of our area that we have seen play, Shane Knighton, who is over at Oklahoma, plays first base for Oklahoma on the Sooners. We looked at her when she used to play in the area. Somebody who hit 405 in the postseason. You look at her, and of course, she included that 17-inning game home run that beat Florida with the bases loaded when she played there. Coming into 2017, a batting average of .358, slugging percentage of .575, .435 on-base percentage. 2 first people, Southern California ladies. Where's the talent for softball in the area, Ryan?
Southern California.
Southern California. Ryan Osborn taking off later today, do a little D1 softball here on Sports. Well, it won't be on Sportsnet, but again, talented people in Southern California.
Well, I mean, when you talk about that and people who have been here on SportsNetUSA.net, Jessie Scroggins for Baylor. You talked about her last week, and she has been one of the better hitters in all of the NCAA. She is top 25 in batting average. She is leading her team and is also up for a possible selection in her conference as the player of the year, setting the table for the Baylor Bears, who at one point were the number 8 team in the country. First pitch swinging, and it's popped up over to short, and the catch is made for Bakersfield by Jordan Jimenez. So Destiny Lucero with 1 pitch ends up popping out for out number 1. Vanessa Ayala up next. This one goes inside, 1-0. You also talk about that Florida squad that played against Oklahoma. Nicole DeWitt.
Yeah.
Over at Florida. We met her at the PGF Championship 2 years ago. You're on SportsNetUSA.net. And now is creeping up the career record or up to the career record for home runs in a Florida career. Has the national championship to her name as well. 2 balls and no strikes. There's a strike that goes outside half. 2-1.
Can't remember, out of Pacifica High School?
Yes,
Yes.
Pacifica High School. 2 balls, 1 strike to Ayala, and she takes that one in the dirt for 3-1.
Can't think of Mark's last name, who's the head coach over there right now. Rob Wild used to be, now he's over at Los Alamitos.
Ayala down to third. Picking it up is Saldana to first, and it is in time. Saldana with an arm, and she's able to clip Vanessa Ayala running down the first base line.
Number 24, Tiana Harris.
Tiana Harris comes to the plate for Cypress. We're currently in the bottom of the 4th inning. 2-0 lead for Cypress, as they have the advantage over the Bakersfield Renegades. First pitch fouled straight back by Tiana Harris. Last time up for Harris, she ended up going opposite way just inside the right field line, as the ball kicked away from right fielder Marley Mendoza and all the way into the right field corner for a triple. That would end up nearly being an inside the park home run, as this is fouled back into the crowd. 0-2. Outfield playing slightly in, with the exception of Mendoza now, who takes a couple steps back. Fahey sees this one go low. 1 ball, 2 strikes, 2 outs.
Ryan, this is really the type of game we expected between these two teams. A close battle, not many runs scored.
Harris sees little dunker inside. 2 balls and 2 strikes. You and I were talking about it before the game. We figured that it'd come down to pitching and, as you mentioned, coaching, as both squads have the ability to stay in it, as Harris sends this one into left field. That's going to get all the way to the wall. She's going to round second and take a look at third, but stop at second base. So she has a triple and a double in 2 at-bats, and she's been effective for this Cypress squad. Now she has 2 out of the 4 extra base hits that Cypress has put on the board in this game.
And you watch Brad Pickler as a third base coach. Watch the ball go to the wall. He's eyeing the outfielder, catching the runner out of the corner of his eyes when he's staring to second base. They're going to hit the bag when somebody picks up the ball and turns. Brad decides to hold him at second and get that valuable third run possibly in this inning.
2 outs, Harris at second. Jessie Gomez up and finds a called strike outside corner. She'll call time for a moment and switch sides at the plate. Coach Brad Pickler wants a word with Gomez down the third base side. No balls, 1 strike, and 2 outs.
Is that your traditional switch hitter? I'll take the first pitch on the left side. I'll take the second pitch on the right side. I'll let my coach tell me which side to bat from on the third pitch. I'll turn to the crowd on the 4th pitch and say, what would you appreciate? And then I'll look at Ryan Osborn and Mark Pavlovich and say, okay, guys, now what do I do?
And at one point, do you get the phone a friend?
That's right. I forgot all about that one.
No balls and 1 strike. Now batting from the right-hand side is Jessie Gomez. And something that has become increasingly more and more rare at community college softball and softball in general. No balls and 1 strike. She'll swing and miss. Is the switch hitter.
Yeah, and it really is a valuable tool if you can be somebody who's good from both sides of the plate. It's something that helps you as a leadoff hitter, a number 2 because you can drag a bunt and move people on.
Fahey sees this one right over towards second. Trying to make a dive is Ashley Hernandez. It gets away from her, and coming around to score is Harris. And Jessie Gomez with an infield single brings across Tiana Harris for run number 3 for Cypress. It's now 3-0, the Chargers.
And again, that indecision being an infielder, Ryan, when you've got to make a play. And you look at Ashley Hernandez saying, should I let it hit the dirt and kick away from me with a little spin, or should I try and dive for it because I'm afraid of that short hop? She chose and tries to take away the short hop, and the ball gets away from her.
Sydney McCullum up next. She has a strikeout and a double into left. More of a bloop double compared to the one that Tiana Harris hit all the way into the left field gap. And McCullum takes inside once more. 2 balls, no strikes with 2 outs and a runner over at first. That is Gomez. Inside out down the right field line, and it just ends up going fair. Marley Mendoza will get over to it and bring it back into the infield. And down to third goes Gomez, so a single for Sydney McCullum. And this inning continues for Cypress.
Now batting number 44, Infinity Laufo.
Down to third is Gomez. And with runners on the corners, here comes Infinity Laufo.
And Ryan, if you're a Cypress fan, you say solid signals when you look at the box score. If you're a Bakersfield fan, you say, have you ever seen so many little dink and dunks that have gone for base hits? Depending on who you're rooting for in this game, you can see this game 2 different ways from a fan's point of view.
No balls, 1 strike, 2 outs. Runners on first and third. That's McCullum and Gomez. In on the hands for Laufo. No balls and 2 strikes. Laufo, designated player for Cypress. She is 1 for 2 with a double. She was the one who hit the double over to the right-hand side that went off the first base bag and popped 12 feet into the air and then came back down. But by that time, she was on at second. Fahey will take the receive throw from Chavez behind home plate, and Sydney McCullum up to second on the stolen base. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Fahey to home, and it's sent foul, left-hand side.
Bakersfield brings their outfield in, Ryan. Now with 2 runners in scoring position, they know Brad is just waving people home the way you wave at people during the parade. I tell you what, this is where you bring that outfield in, hope the ball's hit right at them if it's a base hit, and tell them there's only one place to go. There's no place like home. Take the ball to the catcher.
Fahey ends up seeing this one go too far inside. And a hit by pitch makes the bases be loaded.
Now batting number
Up to
6,
first goes
Gabby
Laufo.
Munoz.
Over to second is McCullum. And Jessie Gomez down at third. So now you have Gabrielle Munoz, who has 2 walks in this game and has been seeing pitches pretty well twice. Both times that she has come up to the plate, she has worked 3-ball counts.
And remember, last time these teams played each other, it was a mercy game.
And you talk about that, Mark. That was almost 2 months ago now, an 11-3 win for Cypress. No balls and 1 strike, 2 outs. Gomez watching from third, and Munoz takes outside. 1 ball
I
and
tell
1
you
strike.
what, the Bakersfield coaching staff, even the people in the circle, are thinking they're getting squeezed a little on those outside calls on the plate.
Fahey back to Munoz, and she slaps this one left-hand side, 1-2. And if there is one thing that she has done well in this game, it has been to watch every pitch that comes to the plate closely I mean, we saw Munoz in that game against El Camino, and she saw a total of 5 pitches all game, 4 at-bats. She offered at the first pitch, and 3 of them. Little dunker down towards third. Saldana has a play, nowhere. It will be an infield single down the left-hand side, as Munoz moves up to first, and Kiani Puailoa is up next.
Now batting number 3, Kiani Puailoa.
So once again, the hit parade continues for Cypress as they're finding a way to manufacture runs, and sometimes that's what you've got to do. We heard Brad Pickler say, hey, going against the pitcher, if she gets hot, she can have 10 strikeouts. We've got to go after her. This is a team that's not sitting there, Ryan. This is a team trying to find any way to scratch and claw for a run.
4 runs, 7 hits, 1 error for Cypress. Fahey to the plate, and Puailoa takes a swing and fouls it back. For Bakersfield, it's no runs, 4 hits, and 2 errors. No balls, 2 strikes. Puailoa, the cleanup hitter, takes low and away. Bases are loaded for Cypress. They have a chance to break this game open. Currently up 4-0 in game 1. Fahey back to home, and Puailoa fouls it off onto the street, left-hand side. Cindy McCullum down at third. Gabriel Munoz over at first. Kennedy Laufo over at second. Valencia playing in front of the bag at first base. Fahey sees Puailoa just get under it and foul it off.
Ryan, look at what those Cypress is doing. If I go to the outside, I'm trying to take the ball to left field. You come in tight to me, I'm trying to pull the ball as a hitter. You put it down the middle, I'm taking it back through the middle. They're not trying to do too much at the plate against Bakersfield.
The 1-2. And Puailoa sees an outside pitch and goes with it, but fouls it off. That's what you saw on all 3 extra base hits that have gone to right field. You saw Sydney McCullum see a pitch that was almost chest level, letter level, and yet well outside, she goes with it, gets herself a single. Laufo did it in the 3rd inning as well. The 1-2 once more, and Puailoa stays alive. Fouls it away. 1 ball, 2 strikes, 2 outs, bases loaded, 4-0 Cypress in the bottom of the 4th inning.
And when you look at it, that's where the game of softball has changed just a little because the science of hitting has improved over the years for these young women.
Puailoa ends up getting hit by a pitch. This will be the 9th player to come up to the plate for Cypress, and it's Kelly Ross. As she sees Munoz go up to second, McCullum scores, and Lofo goes over to third.
And this is what happens if you're in the circle. You go into the outside, you think that's a pitch you normally get. They're trying to take it to right or left field, depending how they're standing in the box. Then you come to the inside, Ryan, and what do? You crowd them twice. You hit 2 batters.
First pitch goes right down the middle to Kelly Ross. No balls and 1 strike with 2 outs. 5-0 for Cypress after Puailoa gets hit. Ross to home, and it's a high chop down to second. Looks like it almost dies as it gets out to Ashley Hernandez at second base, and that will end the inning as she tosses to first in time for out number 3. 9 batters come up to the plate for Cypress. They plate 3 on 4 hits with 1 error and all 3 runners left on base. The score is 5-0, Cypress over Bakersfield in game number 1. This is the 2018 CCCAA Super Regional on SportsNetUSA.net.
Well, of course, you know, a lot of people said, well, Mark, that's really nice that you brought up that Cal State Fullerton coach, and of course she was over at Golden West College and they hadn't made the playoffs. But another team that just got into a playoff game was Long Beach City College this year. And of course, Ryan, You telling me who was the famous coach that came out of Long Beach City College as a softball coach and where her career took her?
Am I mistaken in saying Patty Gasso?
Patty Gasso started at Long Beach City College and had a successful winning seasons while she was there and has since moved on. So realize the quality of softball coaches that have come out of this region. Of course, we have two great softball coaches on the field today. Well, we just talked about two now. We talked about Judy Garman. That says enough. But then you talk about Patty and what she did. That says a great deal. We're going to go on and talk about a few more in these next couple games. Not only is it the players that play here in the Southern California region, but it's the coaches that we have gotten in the Southern California regions. Two Hall of Famers, Patty Gasso, Judy Garman, start on the community college level, go to the D1 level, make names for themselves, and take a lot of young women, help them get through those collegiate years and their degrees at D1 schools and become very successful individuals in society, all because of the wonderful game of softball.
Number 2, Monica Alvarez.
To start things off, Monica Alvarez will come up to the plate in the top half of the fifth, and she immediately shows bunt, but sends it behind home plate. After her is the top of the lineup with Ashley Hernandez and Jordan Jimenez. One thing to notice, Mark, is the fact that since there was an error committed by Hernandez in that bottom half of the fourth, two of those three runs end up being unearned.
Yep.
There's a strike. 0-2 to Monica Alvarez. Alvarez bounced into a fielder's choice in the second. And Hope Davilo sees Alvarez go after this one, but sends it foul right-hand side.
There's a future SID sitting down there. I saw how he reacted to that foul ball.
Hernandez watches it. That one just goes outside.
Hope was looking for that one, and that was a beautiful pitch she threw just off the plate.
And she only has one strikeout in this one. That was to start the game off, as this is sent foul.
But Ryan, she's not really a strikeout pitcher when you look at her. And I mean, she's got an ERA of over 2, but this is somebody that goes back to the old days that's going to give a hit up here or there, but you're not going to score on her. And for her dealing is keeping people off the base path, even if it's just through ground outs all day long.
1 ball, 2 strikes. This one down to Sydney McCullum, who arms this one over to first, and Monica Alvarez is out after a 6-3 play. Up next is Ashley Hernandez, who is currently 0 for 2 with a strikeout and a bounce out to the pitcher. 1 out, 5-0 Cypress. Bakersfield at the plate in the top half of the 5th inning. Game number 1 between Cypress and Bakersfield in the Super Regional. One of 4 matches, or 4 matchups taking place in Southern California. 0-1. And Hernandez takes out and away, 1-1. Palomar and Antelope Valley, number 1 seed taking on the number 10. Then Mount Sac and College of the Canyons as well. As Cypress and Bakersfield slap foul left-hand side. Then the final of 4 as Ashley Hernandez is called out with contact made out of the box. So there's out number 2, and Hernandez is retired.
Now batting number 4, Jordan.
Santiago Canyon currently is up over El Camino in the top of the 6th of their first game today.
That bounces home. Jordan Jimenez is up. First time up, she had a single and was stranded over at second. And after that, in the third, she reached on an error down at third base. That was charged to Destiny Lucero. And Jimenez bounces this one right back up the middle. It goes off the glove of McCullum and to the floor. So she'll be on over at first. Here at the broadcast location, we like it as an error as it goes off of McCullum's glove. She would have had time to throw over to first if it doesn't end up going in and out of her glove.
So Ryan, later on today, Sacramento City, that game's at 2 o'clock. Santiago Canyon in the top of the sixth, they're winning their game. Sequoia game's at 2 o'clock. It is 0-0 with Reedley and Aloni, top of the sixth.
Erica Chavez. Here's that one from Hope Davalos. No balls and 1 strike with 2 outs. Jimenez over at first. Bakersfield continues to get runners on. The question is, can they move them over? A slow breaking ball from Hope Davalos. It ties up Erica Chavez, but Chavez just able to hold up in time, so it makes it 1 ball and 1 strike.
Again, Hope is dealing from the circle. I love the way she's pitching today, off speed, on the outside.
There's that outside corner that you were talking about, Mark.
Comes back with a little more giddy up. You throw it off speed. You put a little more speed on it. Looks like it's a 100-mile-an-hour fastball right off the edge of the plate.
Chavez looking for the 1-2 with 2 outs. And there's that slow off-speed pitch like you were talking about, Mark. You called it, and that is strike 3 as Chavez sees it twice in an at-bat, and she will strike out. The second strikeout for Hope Davalos in this one. We go to the bottom of the 5th inning. 5-0 Cypress on SportsNetUSA.net.
Well, Santiago Canyon's winning their game. You were sort of leaning towards them. That Reedley game, it's 0-0 going towards the bottom of the 6th, so you're sort of half and half on that one. The rest of the games are all starting at 2 o'clock or 7 o'clock today. We'll give you the updates tomorrow on SportsNetUSA.net. Make sure you go. Ed Ford constantly does a recap of the community college season here on SportsNetUSA.net. All you have to do is find out. Of course, I'm sure Ed's going to give us a little more conversation tomorrow here on SportsNetUSA.net as we'll both take a look at what's going on. Corey Nealon will be out here. Ryan Osborn has decided, well, a Friday is just a little too much for him to get up early and stay with us an entire weekend. So it'll be Corey Nealon, myself, and Ed Ford tomorrow here on SportsNetUSA.net. Ryan, surprised so far in this game?
It's surprised that Bakersfield hasn't been able to pull across any runs so far. I mean, they have yet to have an inning in which they go down 1-2-3 with the exception of the 3rd. You look at the 1st, they strand runners in scoring position. The 2nd is the same thing, as with the 4th. And here in the 5th, they have a chance to move runners across. They just aren't able to come up with that at-bat where you can say, okay, this person is coming up. We know for sure that they can move that runner across. And you were talking about it earlier. They tried to put bunts down. They just haven't been successful in moving the runners across so far. So that's been the biggest surprise for me, seeing a very offensive-minded Bakersfield not be able to move runners across. As the bottom of the 5th inning starts off, a 5-0 lead for Cypress. At the plate is Destiny Lucero. She'll be followed by Vanessa Ayala and then Tiana Harris. Lucero takes up and out. 1 ball and 1 strike. First time up. Bounced into a fielder's choice in the 2nd and then flew out to short in the 4th. 5-run lead for Cypress. This goes low and inside. 2 balls, 1 strike. 5 runs, 7 hits, and 1 error for the Cypress Chargers. And it's no runs, 5 hits, and 2 errors for Bakersfield. Fahey goes towards the inner half and can't get the call. 3 balls and 1 strike. Fahey in the circle. Erica Chavez behind home plate with McKenna Valencia over at first. In on the hands and foul well behind us.
And we should see the same person in the circle for the second game tomorrow for Bakersfield. McKenna Valencia is the number 2 on this Bakersfield staff.
And that goes low for ball 4. So walk starts off the inning, and Destiny Lucero is on. Vanessa Ayala is up, and she grounded into a fielder's choice and then grounded out to third. To finish off the fielding lineup for Bakersfield, Ashley Hernandez is at second with Yesenia Saldana down at third, and Jordan Jimenez at short. Bunted foul as a sacrifice attempt by Ayala goes awry. Left to right field for Bakersfield, Alexis Solis, Monica Alvarez, and Marley Mendoza. No balls, 1 strike. Bottom 5, 5-0 Cypress. Valencia charging in from third. This is swung right past third. Saldana goes over to second. The force out is recorded. Destiny Lucero is gone for out number 1, and Ayala is on at first.
Next for Cypress, number 24, Tiana Harris.
So it'll be interesting to see if in game 2 tomorrow we get the same 2 young women in the circle. I think you will from Bakersfield. We'll see what Brad Pickler and how he counters that tomorrow.
Half swing by Harris, steal attempt by Ayala, and she is safe at second base. So you were talking about Brad Pickler and how he has been wanting to send his runners in this game. He does exactly that and sends Ayala down to second on a stolen base. That's the 3rd for Cypress in this game, 0-1. Fahey sees Harris foul this one straight back. No balls, 2 strikes, and 1 out. That netting that was installed this season behind home plate really getting its workout this afternoon.
Well, and you realize Chavez behind the plate has only caught 1 runner this season stealing a base.
She sends this one down the third baseline. It's going to get all the way into the corner. Around comes Ayala from third. Harris is down at second. It's her second double of the game. She now has 2 doubles and a triple as well. And she has driven in her second run of the afternoon.
And that might be the most solid hit by a Cypress hitter today in this game.
First hit of the inning, 1 run across, and still 1 in scoring position. Jessie Gomez up next. And she'll take well out for 1 ball, no strikes. Fahey back to home, and it's right at the letters for 1 ball, 1 strike, 1 out, 6-0 Cypress. 6 runs on 8 hits and 1 error. For the Chargers and for the Renegades, it's no runs, 5 hits and 2 errors. Fahey, next one, Gomez, who switches it up once again. Ends up taking this one inside. 1 ball, 2 strikes, and 1 out. Harris looks around to see if anyone's covering. And Fahey delivers once more. Gomez in on the hands, and Fahey will make the catch as it pops out over to the pitcher.
Up next, number 12, Sydney McCullum.
2 gone in the inning, and Sydney McCullum up next. Similar to the way that we saw the 4th inning go, in which Cypress had Lucero and Vanessa Ayala come up to the plate to start off the inning. Both of them ended up batting into outs, and then with 2 outs on the board, Tiana Harris, Jessie Gomez, Sydney McCullum, and Infinity Laufo, in addition to Gabrielle Munoz, all came up and got on base. Smacked foul, left-hand side, goes right down the line. but just into foul ground. 1 ball, 1 strike with 2 outs. Keani Puailoa also got on as she got hit with a pitch. And then finally, Kelly Ross ended up grounding to second to end the inning. So 2 outs on the board. And Sydney McCullum up next. And she sends this one into deep right field. It's going to hang up just long enough for Monica Alvarez to make a snow cone catch as it nearly comes right back out of her glove. Cypress able to get 1 across, 1 run on 1 hit with no errors and 1 runner left on base. 6-0 Cypress over Bakersfield. We go to the top of the 6th. This is the 2018 CCCAA Super Regional on SportsNetUSA.net.
You know, I was looking for some information. I thought I had put it on my pad yesterday because I was looking at one of the players who played here at this school at a lifetime, I think a lifetime ERA of .14. I wanted to throw that, and I'll have to save that for Mr. Nalen when he comes along. Of course, you know, when you talk about sensational ERAs, one of the young ladies that we're looking at this year, Kelly Barnhill out of Florida. Stats, 26-4 last year, ERA 0.51, 359 strikeouts for a Florida team. And of course, you look at Amanda Lorenz, who we know quite well, and we've seen her play through the years. Last year, batted .388, slugging percentage is .648, with an on-base percentage of .525. Wait a minute, that's another Florida team. What do I want Florida people for? I need to go find somebody else that came out of here, stayed in California and played for somebody.
And you talk about Kelly Barnhill. She was recently named a top 10 finalist for Player of the Year in the NCAA. Top of the 6th inning here at Cypress. It is Cypress College 6, Bakersfield 0. Game 1 of the 2018 CCCAA Softball Super Regional here in Southern California, as this is delivered just outside. Davalos wanted that pitch. 1 ball and 1 strike. Alexis Solis, followed by McKenna Valencia, and then Kylie Fahey. Over towards McCullum. She has to retreat, and it comes out of her hand and down towards home. Solis will get all the way up to second base. And that'll be an error to Sydney McCullum. So that ball just escaped from her hand as she made the transition over to first. And she fired it towards the dugout of Bakersfield.
Well, and the thing is, too, you're running down first base. You think it's going to be a close play because somebody's going deep in the hole like McCullum was doing, trying to get you out. You're not looking at it. Bakersfield fortunately gets their runner on second base, Ryan. For a second, it looked like they were going to not take advantage of the error on the play.
As a strike is delivered, first pitch of the at-bat to McKenna Valencia. And you mentioned that, Mark. Both the first base coach, in addition to Solis, were getting ready to conference together. Solis was not expecting that ball to go towards the left-hand side, and who would, especially with Sydney McCullum making the play. 1 ball and 1 strike. But neither of them realized until the bench started calling it out that ball had escaped from McCullum. Right back to Davalos. She'll make the snag, make the catch. It is Munoz down to third. Not in time, and making the slide is Solis. So she is able to get all the way over to third on the 1-3 ground out.
Now batting number 21, Kylie Fay.
Kylie Fahey with 1 out. Sees that go outside. 1 run in the second, 1 in the third, and 3 in the fourth. In addition to 1 in the fifth for Cypress. Zeros across the board for Bakersfield. They're trying to change that here with a runner at third. Fahey sees that one outside again. 2 balls, no strikes with 1 out. Munoz right down the line over at first, playing near the grass. Davalos sees this one skip down the third base side. It skids towards the corner, but just getting in front of it is Vanessa Ayala, and that will be the first run of the game for Bakersfield. Mark, that is something that the Renegades needed, not only to put a run on the board, but for confidence sake, knowing that you can get to Hope Davalos.
Yeah, and it's not only for today's game, Ryan, but if for some reason you don't come back in this game, it gives you that confidence going into tomorrow's game. Remember, you got to lose 2 to be knocked out of the playoffs. So, you know, there's a little crack in the armor now if Bakersfield looks at Cypress.
No balls, 1 strike, 1 out. The wind picks up here in Cypress as it swirls from center field, now down to third base. No balls and 2 strikes with 1 out. Hope Davalos looking to retire. Sadie Banuelos, as it goes off the end of the bat, Davalos will pick it up herself and flip it to Munoz at first. Moving up to second will be Faye.
Next for Bakersfield, number 10, Yesenia Saldana.
And Yesenia Saldana up next. Coach Andrew Alhada, the basketball coach, makes his appearance for the Cypress Chargers. As this one is popped a mile into the air, it will go over to Munoz, and she will make the catch. That'll do it for the inning, but Bakersfield finally gets on the board with 1 run, 1 hit, 1 error, and they end up leaving 1 as well. As we go to the bottom of the 6th inning, it is 6-1 in favor of Cypress. This is the 2018 CCCAA Super Regional Game 1, live from Cypress on SportsNetUSA.net.
Well, you know, Ryan, we talked about a couple Hall of Fame coaches. We might as well bring up a Hall of Fame player, and we'll talk about a team that's also in the playoffs, which we've done so far on this, and that player would come from Maloney College. Her name was Heather DeMuth Cacciatore, who is one of the better pitchers of all time for the Renegades in that 1991 season. She was 42-8 in her career. She struck out 319 batters. She threw 7 one-hitters and had 2 no-hitters. And as a freshman, her ERA was 0.91. Not too bad, right? Her sophomore year, ERA 0.19 in her sophomore year. And yeah, she still holds a couple records. The best run on postseasons in the CCCAA, 20 consecutive shutout innings when they ended up finishing in 4th place. So not only do the great players come from Southern California, but we've got some Hall of Famers as players from Northern California alike here in the CCCAA.
Infinity Laufo ends up swinging and fouling this one off her leg. No balls and 1 strike. Laufo will be followed by Gabrielle Munoz and then Kiani Puailoa.
See, nobody can say I didn't give any love to Northern California.
0-1. And Laufo ends up getting hit by the pitch. That's the 2nd time today.
Speaking of love.
So she'll go up to first. Gabrielle Munoz will enter the batter's box. 4th time for her. Officially, she is 1 for 1 at the dish as she has 2 walks. Laufo is going to get checked out by the training staff here at Cypress. Our score is 6-1 in favor of the Cypress Chargers over the Bakersfield Renegades. This is the 2018 CCCAA Super Regional on SportsNetUSA.net.
And, of course, at least Bakersfield is being lighthearted right now, whether on the field. They're down 6-1. They know they've got at least 1 more opportunity tomorrow that if they can come away with a victory, they'll go into the 3rd game. And we saw that last week, Ryan. It really, when you thought about it, we saw the Pasadena took it to Santiago Canyon on Friday, 4-0. All of us sort of went there on Saturday going, okay, this might be real quick, you know. And next thing we know, because it looked like Pasadena was going to go 2-0 going to that 5th inning, and then out of nowhere, Santiago Canyon woke up, put some runs on the boards with a big home run, swinging from the hills, getting that big home run was what they needed. And then they end up winning that 3rd game to win 2 in a row, and they move on to take on El Camino today. So anything can happen tomorrow. So if you're Pasadena, you need to stay lighthearted, realize that this is a game and you got to lose 2 to be sent home.
And you mentioned that home run by Riley Sipe. 250 feet.
Yeah, you were out in right field when she hit it, weren't you?
I was indeed, and you guys were saying it was 220, and then I ended up talking with one of the groundskeepers, and he says that it's around 30 feet to where that tree was beyond the walkway that leads to behind home plate. So it was officially clocked at 250 feet because it hit the base of the tree and bounced back towards the field. Sent deep towards right field. If it stays fair, it will be an extra base hit. It will not, as it just ends up shading into foul ground for Gabrielle Munoz.
Ryan Osborn speaks of a home run, and somebody says, well, wait a minute, how many feet was that?
And you know, Mark, you were talking about golf earlier. She went with that little 5-iron, tried to golf swing that one over into the right field corner as that one goes outside, 1-1.
Let's see. That would have been Corey Naylor with a putter right there.
Off the tee.
Always.
Munoz takes up above the letters. 2 balls and 1 strike. Five-run lead for Cypress, 6-1. They have 6 runs on 8 hits and 2 errors. For Bakersfield, it's 1 run, 6 hits, and 2 errors. 2-1. Fahey ends up delivering to Munoz, and again, a 3-ball count. That's 3 out of 4 times that she has come up to the plate, that she has worked a 3-ball count. Next up, and she offers at this one and makes it a full count at 3 balls, 2 strikes, no outs, with Laufo over at first.
Of course, she almost pulls that one down the line, which is 209 to right field, 207 down to left, and straightaway center, 220 feet from home plate.
She sends this one opposite way. Trying to get to it was Alexis Solis, and she cuts it off before it gets to the corner. A single into left for Gabrielle Munoz, and she goes up to 2 for 2 with 2 singles. Meeting in the circle for the Bakersfield Renegades. Our score is 6-1 with Cypress up over Bakersfield in game number 1. Here on SportsNetUSA.net. You guys will be back here tomorrow.
We will. 12 noon here on SportsNetUSA.net. Ed Ford, Corey Nealon, and myself will be sitting at the table.
As everyone breaks up, and Kiani Puailoa will be up next for the Cypress Chargers. And like Mark mentioned earlier, double elimination in this series.
So we could be here for 2 tomorrow on SportsNetUSA.net.
It's interesting that the wording stays the same, double elimination in this case, but essentially it's a best 2 out of 3.
Yeah.
As Puailoa sees this one go to the outside, 1 ball and no strikes. Formatting changes from last year to this year. Last year we saw teams like Santiago Canyon and Palomar as Puailoa bunts it foul, left-hand side, 1-1. Both of those 2 squads coming here to Cypress to take on a super regional that was more expanded. Now it's one team versus the other. Bunts this one foul once again, and it goes behind home plate, 1-2. 1 ball, 2 strikes, no outs. Runners on first and second for Cypress and Kiani Puailoa. Fahey sees this one fouled. It continues to slice its way down towards the cage, and it stays at 1-2.
And really, when you look at it, and the thing that you expected from the circle for Bakersfield today was multiple strikeouts. We haven't seen those. Cypress has been able to get the bat on the ball, kept it in play, and in doing so, has got their 6 runs on the board.
The 1-2. A swing and a miss by Puailoa. So she has 33% of all her strikeouts this season in this game, thanks to Mark Pavlovich over to my right-hand side. There's out number 1.
We know what part of the game she's going to edit.
Kelly Ross. Error in the second as she gets handcuffed on this one, but it's 1-0. Then ended up popping out over to first and grounded out to second in the 4th. And Kelly Ross takes that one all the way. Thought about offering at it. 2 balls, no strikes with 1 out. Both of these 2 teams have combined for just 2 1-2-3 innings. There have been runners on base continually for both sides. I mean, up to this point, we played nearly 12 innings of softball and only 2 innings that have gone down in order. And Ross will take a 3-0 pitch right down the middle, 3-1.
And really, you got to contribute to some of these innings not doing that, Ryan, because of a little luck for Cypress.
2 miles into the air goes this one as it's a third the way down the left field line. And making the catch is Alexis Solis. Keeping it in front of her was Yesenia Saldana. That is out number 2. But Mark, you look at the play there by Saldana. Though it's something that is overlooked at times, we didn't see it in the game or games between Santiago Canyon and Pasadena. Saldana realizes that that ball is going to short hop back towards the infield. And what does she do? She goes to the ball and makes sure that she just stays in front of it, allows it to go off of her shoulder, but as long as she's able to knock it down and keep it in front of her, the runners don't advance.
Yeah, and that's smart defense for an infielder that knows what they're doing and how to square up the body. It's that same thing for a hockey goalie, squaring up a body on a puck coming at him so it drops in front of him.
Right down to third, making the catch is Saldana, as she's able to stretch out, make the catch, and that'll do it for the inning. We go to the top of the 7th. It's the last opportunity for Bakersfield to get on the board. They need at least 5 to tie the game. This is the 2018 CCCAA Super Regional, game number 1 here on SportsNetUSA.net.
Well, you know, Ryan, you were talking about 2 out of 3 times everybody's getting a hit. Well, 2 out of 3 times if you're car shopping, where should you go? Well, it should probably be 3 out of 3 times, not 2 out of 3. You should go to Miller Toyota of Anaheim. That's right. Miller Toyota of Anaheim is the proud sponsor of all our games here on SportsNetUSA.net. That's right. Fullerton College football, Golden West College football with Ryan, what's the name? Rashawn Haylock? That's right, the franchise. I better get his name right. Miller Toyota of Anaheim is a proud sponsor of community college sports, high school sports, but most of all, education. So next time you're out shopping, stop by Euclid in the 91, pull into Miller Toyota of Anaheim and say, hey, SportsNetUSA.net told me to stop on by. Look at those used and new cars and say, hey, you're right, Mark. They're one of the best dealerships in Southern California. That's Miller Toyota of Anaheim, a proud sponsor here on SportsNetUSA.net.
Bakersfield to the plate. They will send Monica Alvarez in addition to Ashley Hernandez as well. And Jordan Jimenez to round out the top 3 for the Bakersfield Renegades. This is bunted foul. right in front of home plate. No balls and 1 strike. So Bakersfield down to their final 3 outs. And Mark, when you have the 9, 1, and 2 hitters coming up to the plate, what's the mentality for this Renegade squad?
Well, I think you're looking at tomorrow. Everybody was laughing while they were out there. I think you want to get a couple hits. You just say, hey, hats are tipped to Hope. She had a great game in the circle.
Bunted into the air. Hope Davalos will take it herself and make the catch. Pop out to the pitcher. 1 gone.
We're probably going to see her tomorrow in there, you know, and now that we went against her, we know what she can do. You know, if the weather's the same, we know how it's going to play in the outfield and the infield. Here at Cypress, we're ready. It's going to be, hey, who can win the first one tomorrow?
Hernandez to McCullum, McCullum to Munoz, and Munoz will make the catch for out number 2. 6-3 grounder. And now Cypress is just 1 out away from taking a 1-game-to-none lead in this best of 3 double elimination matchup against Bakersfield. Now Jordan Jimenez up next. 4th time that she will have an at-bat today, or a plate appearance rather, as there's a slow spinner. We saw 2 of those in the 5th inning, but she doesn't get the call on this one. 1 ball and no strikes.
And if you're Hope, this was the best case scenario you could have against a very good Bakersfield team.
Next out for Davalos. 1 ball and 1 strike as it's called right in on the hands.
You're not known as a strikeout pitcher. You give up a few hits. Your defense plays solid.
Popped into the air. Making the call is Kelly Ross, and she will make the catch. A pop out to the catcher will end the game, and Cypress will end up taking a 1-0 lead in the series. And Bakersfield drops this one by a final score of 6-1. So now Cypress just 1 win away from moving on to the final 8 in California. And Mark, it looks as if this Cypress Charger squad is pretty fine-tuned at this point.
Well, I mean, what do you expect from Brad Pickler? It's the playoffs, right? And we could say all we want about them not playing well during the season. This is what they do when playoff time comes along. If you're Bakersfield, you know what? All you got to do is win the first game tomorrow, and it's a crapshoot. Anybody can come away. So, Ryan, I think we're just starting all over tomorrow. Of course, it's going to be Ed Ford, Corey Naylor, and myself. Tomorrow, Wyatt, you're going to be gone, but I'll be texting you and letting you know who wins that first game.
So finals today, 6 runs, 9 hits, and 2 errors for Cypress. They take the victory over Bakersfield, who ends up finishing with 1 run on 6 hits and 2 errors as well. Our final score, 6-1 for Cypress. They go up 1-0 in the series. Join us here on SportsNetUSA.net tomorrow as the rest of the series will resume once again. Our final score, 6-1, Cypress with the win in game number 1 of the 2018 CCCAA Super Regional. This has been the 2018 CCCAA Super Regional on SportsNetUSA.net.